to make good happen.
To connect them to youth who are also wanting to be the change they wish to see in the world and make a difference.
Send clean water to the Mentuai.
Intelligent combination of mainstream Western medicine with complementary and alternative medicine.
We have one kid of each faith sit at a table and we discuss these questions in relation to each of the people's faiths.
Bring awareness of the issues in Africa as a whole continent.
Our goals, we want to try to get our whole school involved.
Develop compassion.
We need a lot of volunteers.
Advertising.
We need a website to make it bigger.
We have to work as a team, dispelling all the myths around veganism.
Educate the community about the issues going on.
Support from local people.
We need people to believe in us.
Thank you, Your Holiness, and thank you for showing your support to UCI and all us Anteaters.
Thank you for inspiring us to be better than we are.
Makes me really proud to be Tibetan.
You've been a personal inspiration to me and inspiration to our entire organization.
1, 2, 3. Tashi Dilek.
Thank you, you working groups. We look forward to seeing what great projects come in spreading your message, Your Holiness. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jerry Murdoch, your good friend, who is a founding member of Insight Venture Partners. He's also on the board of the Aspen Institute and the Santa Fe Institute.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to have the privilege to introduce a man whose work has been an inspiration in acting with compassion, whose words have been a teaching in wisdom, and whose laughter has been a reverberation of universal joy. He lives and works for the good of all citizens in the world, as well as the earth and all living beings. It should come as no surprise that His Holiness has been given countless awards and honors, including the Nobel Peace Prize, the Congressional Medal of Honor, and the Living Peace Prize for his contributions to world peace and to all of mankind. His tireless work and boundless energy is a reflection of a life as a selfless person. He is the embodiment of universal good and a reminder that this good is in all of us. Perhaps some of you will recognize what I mean when I quote some of his simple words, as I'm going to do for you now. He said, "Be kind whenever possible, and it is always possible." In the practice of tolerance, one's enemy is the best teacher. Know the rules well so you can break them effectively. And finally, there is no need for temples, no need for complicated philosophies. My brain and my heart are my temples, and my philosophy is kindness. I hope these few words help to give you just a little bit of insight into who the guest is today. And now, without further ado, please help me welcome His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama.
Usually I speak from podium,
but I want to seek your permission to speak from here. A little bit because I'm tired. Okay, no problem. So indeed, I feel very happy today. This picture, see young boys and girls actively involved about these sort of values. So reason, I usually sharing with people. Now we are 21st century. Only 10 years passed. 90 years are yet to come. So, my generation, perhaps Chancellor also maybe, and some others, older people, we belong to 20th century. So our century gone. So my generation now ready to say bye-bye to this new sort of century. What we learned through my own century, that's 20th century. I think 20th century really become, I think, very, very important sort of century of human history. During that period, a lot of sort of scientific inventions and wonderful things to see found. At the same time, that 20th century also becomes century of bloodshed. According to some historian, during that century, over 200 million of people killed. And also that century used nuclear weapons. I just come from Japan. That nation actually experienced how terrible nuclear weapon. And anyway, immense violence really produce better world, then there is some sort of justification. But that also not there. I feel some of the tragedy, beginning of this century, I think due to some mistake or too much use violence or force in 20th century. And also, I think certain deeper value are neglected in 20th century. So we are facing the symptoms, the consequences of that century sort of human thinking or human behavior like that. So now, it is quite obvious now, I think, firstly. So these younger people, I think below 20, 30. How many people below 20? How many? Raise hand. Okay. Then between 20 to 30, how many? Then above 60. Oh, just now also. Oh, 60. So you actually the generation of 21st century. In order to create new shape of this planet, entirely on your shoulder. So the youth must prepare to build healthy world and utilize this century, 21st century, more constructively. Here are two things we need. Knowledge, more holistic, not just look surround or short-sighted, short term, but long term. And now, I think even like United States, the most powerful nation, but still part of the world. So if world gets some trouble, United States also bound to because of the involved. Like environment sort of problem. Global warming, due to global warming, no single nation escaped from that. So that's one example. And global economy, also now, we whole sort of cover whole world. So therefore, now time come, we must think global level rather than national level. I think many sort of tragedy, even today, I think happen because we too much stress importance of secondary sort of thing, secondary sort of matter like national interest or religious interest and some other. These are secondary. The number one, because of the most important sort of thing is global sort of what's the interest. It is quite clear, like failure or fail to bring satisfactory sort of result from Copenhagen summit, because some of the important nations did too much emphasis about their national interest rather than global interest. So now the young people, I think in the past, my generation, too much emphasis about one's own area. That I think failed to bring real positive change on this planet. So now you must think in the terms of global level. Entire over 6 billion human beings, nearly now 7 billion human beings. So I usually describe a sense of global responsibility. That's your sort of vision. Look wider. Then every event by nature much interconnected or interrelated. If may I say so, like Iraq problem. People consider all these problems due to one single person, that's Saddam Hussein. Before that crisis, one occasion I was in Germany, I told Saddam Hussein as a dictator, so he cannot sort of, because of that, cannot sort of become like that sort of powerful dictator without a powerful army. Without modern sort of equipment, that army, because a powerful army cannot sort of develop. So these equipment, weapons made in Europe, including Germany, I mentioned. So indirectly, you also made some contribution regarding to produce this dictator. So then, eventually, you see, they target just one absolutely independent, one single person. If that eliminates, then everything okay. That's a mistake. The reality, much complex. So that's very important. When you see some problem, you cannot see that independently. You must look from wider perspective. When the tragedy in New York, September 11th, happened, I was in, I think next few days, I was in Calcutta. Some media people rushing and asked me question, what do you my views or my thoughts. Then I mentioned these events may related with previous 20th century and even 19th century, the colonial power and exploitation in these under colonial rule like that. I mentioned. So today's certain sort of event, it caused much complex. We cannot pinpoint one. So accordingly, when we deal this problem, we must keep all the possible factors. So number one, you should look global level, more wider perspective. Then secondly, sense of responsibility, sense of global responsibility. How it come? As you mentioned very nicely, we enter a human being, same human being, all have same right. And then I will, the reason all come from mother. We all survived by mother's milk, mother's affection. No differences. Even Saddam Hussein or Hitler, all these destructive merciless ruthless people, original, come from the same way. Therefore, they also have the seed of compassion. Yeah. So basically, we human beings, we all equipped in deep insight the sense of concern of others' well-being. More awareness, the value of compassion. Then I think we can develop more healthier society, more compassionate society. So more compassionate society through law, impossible. Through resolution, even at the UN, impossible. So compassionate society must start from individual level. After all, community or society means composition of individual. So initiative must start from individual. Individual, then family level, then community level. That I hopefully, although you see, many people agree, fully agree, modern education system, they're not sufficient they pay attention about moral ethics. That also one reason when people talk about moral ethics, then immediately they felt religious faith. Then the secular education system difficult. So there must be a secular ethics, secular way to approach these values. That I always is mentioning. But secularism does not mean disrespect all religion, but rather respect all religion and also respect a non-believer. So there are now people, including some scientists now, we are working as how to introduce in education system the education about moral ethics without touching religion. So that can be universal. So now these youth, young people, you have a tremendous responsibility to create better society, more compassionate society. That I want to tell you. So perhaps that's all. Now some questions. I want to take few questions. Perhaps first from this group, then second that group, third that group. Yes, yes. First from here. Oh, I see. Oh, then okay, okay.
So we have some questions.
Yes, good.
I'm the messenger of the questions.
Yes, good.
Okay, so Nicole Lappin wants to know, do you think Osama bin Laden's death is a good thing, and should people celebrate?
That's, I think, different views from different sort of religious viewpoint. Right? As you see, I think I think you mentioned the enemy is your best teacher.
Yeah.
So from the viewpoint of practitioner of that, rather sad.
Okay, we have another question.
But those people, of course, who believe enemy is absolute enemy, then must celebrate. Yes,
Okay.
this question.
So Will I Am wants to know, how do I learn how to harness my energy and connect it to the energy of the planet? Or is it all the same energy?
Energy. I'm skeptical. I don't think some kind of the general energy there and our individual energy, some kind of I don't think that. Well, what is the meaning? Real meaning? What kind of energy? What do you say? Huh? Oh yes.
Energy meaning your spirit. Is the spirit the same as the spirit of the planet? Part of my misuse of the word energy.
Spirit of worlds already. I don't know. I think again you see different sort of views. Some sort of ancient Indian sort of school of thought believe there is big sort of energy, and we come from that. So eventually we dissolve. So that different views. Buddhists, no. So I personally, I'm Buddhist. But if you feel there is some energy, and then how to make a connection with that energy? How? Yeah. So without that general energy, then no question how to make closer.
Okay.
Next question.
Okay, speaking of energy, Kelly Slater wants to know if you've ever been interested in catching a wave.
Never. Although, when I was young, in Lhasa, Nobulinga, there is quite big sort of pond, man-made sort of big pond. So I can sort of train, swim, but I never. So therefore, when you say I traveled over sort of ocean, and particularly the hot area, sometimes I feel, if something goes wrong, then go to sea. I never sort of learned swim. So I think I may be first person go to sharks for sort of food. Next question.
Okay. So, if you have one piece of advice for all of us in this room to remember today, what would that be?
내가 가르쳐 그랬어요. Recently, I was in Japan. I also mentioned there, and also recently in India, in different places, some meeting, some intellectual, some businessmen. I mentioned because of the global warming, nature disaster may increase, and shortage of water increase. And meantime, population increase. So therefore, now we cannot take for granted our sort of usual sort of way of thinking. Now we must think sort of more deeply. That I want to share with you. I think nature disaster, when it really happened, is out of our control. So new building, new township, these, I think, accordingly, or in Japan, I usually see, and also the American, because the university, the typhoon university, Missouri, sir. No. I think 2 years ago, you see, the southern, New Orleans. You see, I think a few occasions I mentioned. Now, perhaps I think new location, not necessarily built at the same place, because you see now nature these sort of say typhoon or these things now will increase. No guarantee now. So therefore, you see, we must think, we must plan more safer place. And Japan also, I mentioned, if possible, you see, these towns should move little higher place. And then also, you see, think more seriously about using solar system, solar energy. These are very, very important. Now demonstrated the nuclear power, how much sort of serious sort of the danger. In Germany, I think very serious of discussion about the nuclear power, nuclear energy. So I think we must now think new way, not just thinking is the past sort of our old style like that. That I want to share with you. Next.
Okay, so you have over 1.7 million fans on Facebook. You have almost 1.7 million followers on Twitter. And all of these people, all of them, would like to have dinner with you. But if you could only have a meal with 3 of them, who would the 3 be and why?
I think it seems silly question.
Someone who can fly.
That I want, you see, to meet them and say, out of my curiosity, how can fly?
How can the youth, by having compassion, how can they change the world?
I think firstly, I think among these youth who receive maximum affection from your own mother, I think in deep inside, much calmer, much stable. even some irritation come, their response may be more positive. That those children, those youth who receive less affection from our mother, and worst case, some abuse, including sexual abuse, then very difficult. So, rang lula penola shanumashata.
So, just as the golden rule says, just do unto others, do to others what you wish others do to me.
So the society, we are social animal. Our life starts through affection. So that's our basic nature. Aggressiveness mainly related with education or intelligence side. So marvelous intelligence there, but must balance with affection. Then our intelligence becoming more constructive. Otherwise, intelligence, you see, the more sort of controlled or guided by hatred, then whole our marvelous intelligence become destructive. So by human nature, we have the great potential to develop infinite love, compassion, global compassion. Only we human beings can do, no other social animal. They also, by nature, biological factor, they have some limited altruism there. But we human being, only human being, because of this intelligence, with help of intelligence, we can develop altruism without boundary. Like that.
I have a question. It's for me. Most of us have been brought up believing that a leader is someone else in the room. What advice do you have for the youth to be leaders themselves?
I think one Buddha sort of message or advice, I think that is very good. That is, you are your own master. Ultimately, you have to take care of yourself. You are your own master. I think that sort of suggestion, I think very nice, very practical. Meantime, of course, you see some people more experienced, more knowledgeable, we can learn from them. But ultimately, entirely depend on yourself.
Thank you.
One more big round of applause for His Holiness. Thank you so much. And I'd like to ask Lama Tenzin. We have some VIPs that are going to come up for a minute and greet you. Thanks, thank you guys for being patient and for being such a great audience. I don't know about you guys, but that was inspiring. That was amazing. We're gonna have Emily come up, and she's gonna play 3 songs that she wrote herself, and then we're going to bring up our celebrity panel. And so if you guys hang out, you guys are in store for a treat. Big round of applause for Emily. She came all the way from Chicago to join us here today. You're awesome. If I can ask you guys to begin taking your seats, please. Okay, guys. So we're gonna get going and begin our next and final and remarkable and amazing panel. We have some guests that came in from very far away to be here today to be able to join you guys in talking about the power of young people. And again, that's why they're here today, along with His Holiness. I first would like to introduce our moderator. His name is Jesse Dillon, a really remarkable person. He's a film director and producer and named one of Fast Company's most creative people of 2010. Also a member of the Council of Foreign Relations, TED, and serves on the board of Citizen Rights Group. He's also the founder of Wondros, a strategic firm and production company focused on issues of social responsibility. Please come on up. I'd like to introduce will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas. We're both the same age, and I remember seeing him in downtown LA, and it's amazing to see him here again. He's a founding member of the 7-time Grammy Award-winning band Black Eyed Peas. His philanthropic work includes founding the I Am Home Fund to help parent families from losing their homes, among other great organizations. I'd like to introduce Kelly Slater. Ten-time world champion of surf and one of the greatest surfers of all time. He's passionate and committed philanthropist dedicated to preserving the world's oceans with the Kelly Slater Foundation. And I'm super excited to introduce Rob Borden and Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park. They're 2-time Grammy Award winners. They have 27 million friends on Facebook. Thinking Twitter for a second. And Mike is also the founder of the musical Mike Shinoda Scholarship Fund benefiting young artists. I think you guys will have a great experience to hear the amazing things they're working on. Jesse.
So Mike and Rob, you guys, everybody knows you guys have sold a lot of records, but I think what people may not be as familiar with is kind of your online presence and what you've been doing. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Just to clear up the scholarship thing, that's actually an art scholarship. It's at Art Center College of Design for graphic designers and illustrators who it's based on financial need. Our main the charity we focus on and run is called Music for Relief, and that was started in 2005, and I think we've generated about $4 million for that charity, have done work in, it focuses on natural disasters and issues of climate crisis and combating climate crisis. Yeah, Facebook, 27 million on Facebook. We get about 500,000 views on LinkinPark.com per month, and those the average time spent on the site is roughly a little over 3 minutes, and we're generally in the top like 20 on of music groups on YouTube. I think over 500,000 YouTube channel subscribers. So that just actually, I'm glad you said you asked me that, not because I wanted to pat myself on the back or pat our band on the back, but the thing for us that's so nice is that it's not is that we get to do those things, and I think you guys can relate to this too. And we don't. It's not about like trying to get out there and like put ourselves in people's faces about it. And in fact, just today I was over at the University Center. Is that right? What it's called? There's like a Pete's Coffee, and then right across is a Golden Spoon. Yeah. So students know that where that is. Okay, so I was over there. I hung out there this afternoon. Got a coffee, and I sat down and hung out. And not a single person, so given what I just told you, not a single person came up to me and said anything about the band or, hey, aren't you the guy? That happened here once I got here, but that didn't happen when I was hanging over there. And I think we both, I mean, all the guys in the band love that fact. We love the fact that we can do things and we don't need to put our face in front of it so much. We don't need to be recognized walking down the street. We don't need all that fanfare. It's more about being honest and being authentic and doing what you do. And then when we get a call for Music for Relief, and we do something with the UN, which is what happened after Haiti. After the earthquake in Haiti, they had a program going on where they wanted to provide nets they had cholera and malaria spreading, and they had some programs that they were trying to raise awareness for, and they had a video, kind of an informational video, I believe is what it was. It was they had like 6,000 views on it, and we helped get behind it and told them, kind of helped them out with it, and all of a sudden they had we did a meeting. We had a meeting with the Secretary General of the UN, and he said, this band, we had this video, had 6,000 views. We gave it to Linkin Park, it had 6 million views right away. And for us to be able to go down to have a coffee and not have to be caught up in that, and then I'll be able to turn around and do make a difference is something we value a lot.
So Will, you've made a video that had 100 million views at a very strategic time in helping Barack Obama get elected. How did you think about that? Did you think that when you started on that it was going to have the impact? Did you think of YouTube and your own site as a way of distributing that message?
Yeah, well, in 2004, we did a lot of campaigning for Kerry. And I remember going out with the group and doing shows to try to raise awareness and inspire the youth to go out and vote. And how excited we were and passionate, how scary America was with potentially having another 4 years of Bush. And at the time, YouTube wasn't around. There was no YouTube in 2004, really. It was MySpace. And it was kind of an uncool thing for bands to do politics. And the verbs and the words that people used was grassroots. We're going to do a grassroots campaign. And grassroots took about 3 weeks to plant the seed, and you see it grow, and you start seeing people in the streets and people talking at coffee shops. And in 2008, a whole new tool was around, and YouTube was it, where a group didn't have to rely on MTV to play videos. In fact, MTV didn't play videos. And the place to see videos was YouTube. And I remember after we did the video, I took it to the record company after we edited it. And the record company said, "This is cool, but we can't help you." So, "What do you mean you can't help me?" I said, "You can't use your machine to, support your candidate." So, "What are you talking about? They use their machine all the time. Fox, they got all crazy stuff on Fox." So we put it up on YouTube, and in 3 days, 20 million people saw it. And that was the first time you ever saw, you know, that type of movement of youth sharing, adults sharing, you know, mothers and daughters watching it before they went to school. We didn't do the video to get him elected. The reason why I did the song and the video was to get his speech taught in school. Right? To say, ooh, I want to get Obama elected, I'm going to do a song. Yeah, good luck. But I'm going to do a video so teachers could teach the speech in school. That's the reason why I wanted to do it. When's the last time you've seen a politician speech taught in school since Kennedy, or a public speaker since Martin Luther King? That was the window of opportunity. So now in 2012, is YouTube the tool? I don't know, because people's appetite of content and the need to be connected is every minute would refresh on Twitter. You refresh it. You didn't have, that was in 2008. It wasn't a refresh button. It was email, you gotta check this video out. And you check it when you get home from work, right? Now you have the work with you. You have your phone. Phone's more powerful than your computer. Phone's more powerful than the computer in your car. Your house is the dumbest thing you have. There's no brain in it, right? The house is pretty dumb. So the phone and your tablet is the smartest thing, right? So it's everywhere. You take it with you. So that refresh button. So how do you know, what is tomorrow when it comes to keeping people's attention? Your attention span is, people's attention span is, you can say something real big, tomorrow's gonna happen, whoop, guess what? Come Tuesday, they forgot about it, right? So that's what I'm trying to figure out, how to keep it on the wall. When you throw it and it sticks, how does it stay there?
So the messages that you're talking about, it's more about the message than the technology. The technology is secondary to whatever you're trying to say?
Well, no, see, technology and information is so fast and it's so crowded that people's attention span on serious issues, it comes and it goes real quick. Right? Everybody thought, what? The iPhone tracks, the iPad tracks everything you do. People were afraid, and then 2 days later, they're like, whatever. You thought people were gonna go panic and throw their iPhone away. There's like piracy, privacy, whatever. Yeah. Like people don't care anymore. It's like, what do they really care about? Because they've been bombarded with so much information, so much emotion, so much scare, so much terror, so much, like it's so much that you're desensitized to the world. And that's the scariest thing I feel about, I fear, that people are desensitized to everything.
You know, so Kelly, the Dalai Lama said that we should all be our own master, right? And so you've traveled around the world, you've been in all these different communities. Are there things you've learned from those communities over time that you bring back here and impart to young people? Are there lessons you've learned from that?
Well, a lot of good recipes, meals. But you know, I do come in contact with so many different cultures. You know, I was in Australia yesterday, got back this morning, and even just in one place, there's one place we surf there all the time. I have an apartment on the Gold Coast in Queensland, and there's a place we surf called Snapper Rock, and the community, they decided to do this sand sort of beach replenishing thing. So they're dredging this inlet and putting the sand on this point. It made this perfect wave that a few years ago a guy rode a wave for 6 minutes, one wave 6 minutes long. So like 2.5 kilometers, or almost 3 kilometers for one ride. But it's created this mesh of people. People, you know, bought land, built huge high-rises. You go down the beach and you hear, you know, in a matter of 10 yards on the beach, you'll hear someone speaking Japanese, someone speaking Portuguese from Brazil. You run into some guys from Hawaii, guys from the States, tons of Australians. And you got this mix, these cultural mixes in these places, sort of these hotbeds where we go. And so for us now, there are great pockets of culture that we go to. Like, we go to Fiji, where I honestly think the nicest people in the world live in Fiji. They're just always smiling and happy, and they're not connected to the iPhone. You know, they're not connected to technology the way we are, and we sort of have. You know, I find technology has kind of almost split people. Some people have gone, well, I want to tune out from that and be more in touch with who I am. And some people think I got to be right on the forefront of that, and I have to know everything that's happening about technology. I'm probably somewhere lost in the middle. But it's there's so many things to learn from, you know, from traveling. But now we have, you know, what has happened in the history of the world is now we're getting to a place where everything there is to know can be found out right now. Any one of you can pick up your phone and find out pretty much anything that almost anyone in the world knows. And so the world's getting faster and faster, and that's a common thing that's happening for all of us is, you know, in early civilization, we're still trying to figure out where people started, you know, were they in Australia or Africa or Europe or Asia, how to get to America and South America, and et cetera. But they were all so disconnected from each other. Maybe at one point, yeah, we were all connected in one place, but now we're coming to a point now where it's just that's the way of the future. It really is like The Matrix, the movie, and everyone is tapped into this one thing, and you know, there's something great about that and something scary about that at the same time, and I think that's what Will brought up before about you know, people being scared of what that brings. You know, what is the future of that? What's Big Brother doing, looking at us and tracking us and all this kind of stuff? And I don't know. It just sort of leads me to a thought that the Dalai Lama spoke about earlier, and that's having compassion and doing the right thing. And if you're doing that, it doesn't matter who's watching you. It doesn't matter who's listening in or anything. Maybe they'll learn something.
That makes me think of, I mean, do some of the students, or maybe one of you guys know the Mark Twain quote about travel being fatal? I think it was something, I'm butchering it, travel is fatal to intolerance or something like that? Is that indifference? It's the same, I mean, that's what we're all talking about, you know? And I was thinking about, somebody asked us earlier today, when did you start Music for Relief? Because that was our first big move into like a charity, an effort to kind of a philanthropic effort. And it was clearly after we had done a lot of touring in the world. There was no doubt about it. We had gone around, we had flown around the planet a couple times at that point and said, oh my gosh, we've got to do, this is what we want to do. We want to do Music for Relief. And I think that's the same. It's like, and the internet helps. I think I'm of the, I kind of fall into that category of people that think, you know, I love to be in touch. I love the internet. I love having the information. I love being connected online. And I think
it's not either or. I mean,
yeah, that's true. It's true.
Let me ask a question about that, though. You know, you're talking about a community of people. You have 27 million people on Facebook. So my question to you about that is how hard is it? Because I assume half of them are from other parts of the world. They don't speak English. They're not here now. There's a large group of them. So the question is, how do you communicate with a community of people who are not all here, don't all believe the same things, don't all think the same thoughts?
Well, I want to talk about that.
Well, I think the main way, one of the reasons we're lucky to have so many people that follow us and take an interest is because they, first and foremost, they really love our music and they want to listen to our music. And when we first started off, we were making a music for us that seemed to be different than anything else out there. And there was a movement of people that said, hey, I really like what you're doing. I want to be a part of this. I believe in it, and I want to help you guys promote it. And you know, we started off very early before there was Twitter and Facebook and MySpace and all these ways to reach fans. We literally did it by meeting them in person, getting an email address, and
all
that
27 million?
No, not all 27 million, but that, yeah, we'd still be going.
So is the idea that they share values?
Well, but what Rob's talking about is that we even chose the name Linkin Park. It's LINKIN because we wanted the URL .com, and it was. The presidential spelling was taken, so we changed the spelling and got the URL because we knew that when we met a fan and said, hey, go online, do you go online? And half of them said no. And the other half we'd say, okay, when you go online, this is where you can find us, and you can get connected with us that way. And we've just kept that mentality ever since then. It's grown, it's changed, it's always changing. But you got to be, I mean, we're talking about, really what we're talking about is authenticity. There has to be, you can't, your brand doesn't, for you guys that work for a company that has a brand identity, most of you know, it's not the brand that you shove down somebody's throat. You can tell people all day, this is what my brand is about. This is what my band is about. This is who I am as a surfer or an actor or whatever. But the strength of that thing really lives in the circle where you paint a picture and it's this thing, and the fan's perception is a thing, and how much do those overlap? If they're separate and they're inconsistent, then you lose. If they lay right on top of each other like Nike, like Apple, I mean, then that's where you've got brand strength. And I think we pride ourselves on being aware of that. We're very, like when it comes to our Twitter, our Facebook, our blogs, anything we do online, it's first person. We write it or we oversee it and we collaborate on it, and we have a hand in everything. Even our press release and our album, like our bio and album description and all that stuff for this last record, 1,000 Suns, was in first person. It wasn't written by the publicist, which is normally what happens. They write, oh, Linkin Park was in the studio for X amount of days. And
So you wrote that?
So we sat down and we wrote our press release and our album description, and then, you know, thanks to spell check, it wasn't a total train wreck. And and that's what we put out.
So Kelly, what is for activism? Like, what is your metric of success when you get involved with an organization? What are you trying to do?
Well, you know, it's always nice to give your time. I mean, that's, if you can be hands-on and be active in something, that's the best way to learn about it.
But do you, like Trestles versus Surfrider, two different kinds of organizations. One is a specific project you're going to do, it's going to be accomplished. Another one is a broader idea. So for you, in the broader idea, how do you judge whether
I think we sort of talked about that earlier, about networking the right people together, you know, and you know, everyone here knows about that probably as well as I do, or better. It's, you know, just when you're forming an idea, when you have a vision, whether it's music or it's a company or technology, you know, you have people thinking about it that are coming up with brainstorming all these great ideas, and then it starts to get bigger, and then you need people who can reach out on those different branches and grab the right people. And I think that's where the success comes in. You got to have that like mind, but then you have to have different ideas and different viewpoints. And I guess the measure of success is, you know, the end result, whatever comes in the end. And for us, we don't have any, with my foundation, we don't have any one specific idea in mind. I'm really passionate about a lot of health issues, about diet, about getting away from medications. No offense to anyone in the pharmaceutical industry here, but you know, just getting as healthy as you possibly can is a really important thing to me, and environmentalism as well. You know, just the amount of plastic bags we go through, the amount of plastic bottles we go through. You know, most of those are single-use plastics, and where do they go? Does anyone know what happens? Has anyone in this room ever gone to a recycling plant and watched what happens and how much of that gets recycled? And does it go, you know, what percentage of recyclables that you put in your on the side of the street every week goes back into actually being pulled out of the system or reused in the system, or does it just go into the ocean? And so we're finding, you know, there's a gyre out in the middle of the Pacific that's as big as Texas or bigger, and it's just getting bigger and bigger, and it's just filled with these little bits of plastic, and, you know, we're just inundating the ocean with this stuff, and the ocean's much bigger than we can even imagine. It can hold more than we can even imagine, and we're littering literally every square inch of the place, and it's, you know, what's the end game in that? Where does that go, and how do we create a difference? Like you said earlier, to some kid in Arizona, how does that impact, you know, how could I as a surfer impact somebody who lives inland somewhere? And, you know, so we had a little talk about that, just trying to, don't use plastic bags when you go to the store, you know, and actually make a movement to try to get your city to stop plastic bags. That's one simple way a kid could start some kind of movement at school. But I mean, there's endless movements. So I mean, we were talking earlier. I work with Sea Shepherds. I've worked with Surfrider Foundation. I've worked with autistic surfers. The list goes on and on. There's so many things to be passionate about and be in touch with and be compassionate for in the world. And there's no one that's greater than another. They're all really important. They all work together. And we all do have an effect on each of those things.
So, Will, how do we inspire young people?
I believe you inspire young people by enabling them. I was enabled. Early on is, 9 years old, like Emily's age, dreaming to want to do music, and encouraging the youth inspires them, that they could believe in turning those dreams into reality. So encouraging, enabling, that's something that's authentic, right? That's the kindest thing you could do to the youth, is encourage them and enable them.
So in this room, we have a lot of people from corporations. What is the opportunity for corporations to participate with?
Depends on the corporation. There's a bunch of different types of
What
corporations.
is the general thing? What is their opportunity?
Depends on what it is that they want to get out of doing it, and if it's good behind it, right? It's just a very broad question. Let's take
Well, let's say ultimately it's a soft drink and they want to have more sales. So what's their opportunity with young people?
a soft drink that once I had. You want me to come up with a marketing campaign?
No, I'm saying, like, what would you gonna sit with them and say? Or say, go on to another question. Okay, so.
For us, the answer, for us, one thing that we've done, and I don't know if, it may be not possible for some of those folks, some of these folks. We committed to giving through a partner. It's American Forces, the partner, right, with the tree campaign. So for every ticket sold on this tour, we plant a tree. And by the end of this tour, we will have planted 1 million trees to offset carbon emissions. And we actually keep the tours very green as it is, so we're not offsetting as much. Hopefully we're in, I guess if you're looking at it in terms of like in the red or in the black, hopefully we're in the black. Yeah, I think that if you get creative, as long as you're not resting on like what people have done before and saying, okay, I'm going to benchmark like what my actions against what the status quo is. You could be benchmarking against other industries. You could be benchmarking against somebody that does something completely different from what you do. You could be just creating something brand new, which is what I hope most of you are thinking of doing. It's like there's so much. We were just talking about this earlier. We're at a point in time right now where technology and technology especially has allowed us to so much opportunity out there to create new programs, new software, new communities, new networks that just enable young people to make a huge difference. Because in the past, when 100 years ago, in order to lead maybe you're familiar with Seth Godin's book Tribes. Sure. So Seth Godin talks about tribes, and tribes need a leader. And when hundreds of years ago, the leader you were locked into geography. You could be a leader of a tribe as long as you were close to one another in distance. But now anybody can be a leader of an infinitely scalable tribe. It can be as big. It could be millions and millions and millions of people just based on a YouTube video. And you don't even need any funding. It's essentially free, and it's essentially scalable to infinity. So I think that's just a really powerful tool that young people have today that we did not have growing up. And
yeah, if you like to his point as far as this new technology, it's superior to yesterday's technology. And when it comes to brands, and the audience. The most powerful thing in the planet is the youth. If they stop wanting to buy things, then what the hell are they going to be selling? So from TV to radio, RCA is responsible for television with NTSC and radio by making that a consumer product. From RCA's purchase of Victor's Talker Machine, which is now our Grammy, when the first gramophone came, that created a whole new industry. And that from that came distributions and contracts and the information that was stored on that lacquer, from Philips inventing the CD player or EMI creating the tape with magnets that read the information that was stored on that tape. An industry was spawned. And now distribution is sent on my phone. And it disrupts yesterday's business, right? Everywhere from watching a commercial and having TiVo, and now brands are trying to scratch their head and figure out what is my ad agency doing because people aren't watching TV, and the millions of dollars that I spend on commercials all the time and print ads, and nobody's buying magazines or even watching TV. Everything is disrupted. There's a big flux. So a way to enter is enable the youth to participate in curation, creation, marketing messages, so they could go in their community and help with the money, because they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on ads and marketing budgets. If they incorporated the customer or consumer and the youth, so they can make money and then take that money into their communities, they'll be doing a whole bunch of things, because distribution is easy. You could reach 20 million people instantly. So the army should be the youth, right? Marketing agencies should not be marketing agents. They should be agents that market your message. And those agents should be the youth.
So when you're starting on a new Black Eyed Peas record, are you thinking about making records?
First, we're not making no more records. We're just making songs.
Okay, well, songs. Okay. When you think about making a group of songs, do you think about it differently than you have in the past in terms of when you started, you would just make a record?
Yeah, so we were in the studio. I remember I was telling Apple, Taboo, and Fergie when we were making The End, I was like, when we released Monkey Business in 2005, we sold 12 million albums. And we started recording The End in 2007. And I'm like, guys, it's going to be impossible for us to sell records when there's no record stores. So how in the hell are we going to... So that's the reason why we called the record The End. So I said, instead of making songs for radio or making songs to be sold, we should make music for life. We should make songs for people when they're at a sporting event, or when they're at a wedding or a graduation, or anything for life. So because we did that, and we looked at the DJ as the center, right? So his activity and his passion was splinter out into lifestyle and culture, and we made songs that other DJs or people can take bits and pieces. So when you go to a club, they don't play the whole song in the club. They play pieces of it because people's attention spans are so short. So we make little components for people to use. So by doing that, we sold more records on The End because it was effective for the time than we did when there was record stores, right? So you have to rethink everything. A song for 3 minutes, that was yesterday.
Have you guys had a similar thinking in how you approach a record?
Mr. Handman.
Okay, what do you got?
I'd like to ask something just regarding the center of this conversation. We're all here to celebrate empowerment of youth. That's my understanding of this event. But it sounds like to me this conversation is going more so what the youth can do for corporations.
No. We're not saying what the youth can do for corporations. I'm saying how corporations should... Right, empowering the youth can mean so many things. The youth are all going to go to school, and they're going to graduate and get some job to work at some corporation. That's a cycle, right? But how do you empower them to want to start their own businesses? How do you empower them to change their community? How do you empower them with information about what's good for them, as far as what they eat, how they participate in their community or government, socially? So a lot of that information the reason why they don't care about that because they've been bombarded by marketing and commercials all the time. So the way to switch that is to empower them by enabling them to take care of the communities. So when they graduate college, they have some type of business sense to start their own business, because that's what America lacks, is there's no jobs here. You guys are all going to graduate and go work for some country, some business overseas somewhere, because there's no jobs in America.
So if anybody wants to ask a question, come to the microphones. But let me ask you a question.
No, he didn't finish his question.
Yeah.
Well, there's a point of interest to that comment, because what we have here, right here, are a bunch of youth who are already working on amazing projects. They spent this last Saturday doing a bunch of work with the Center of Living Peace, and some of them want to build schools in Africa, some of them want to deliver water to high-need countries. There's a lot of things going on here. So my question to you is that since they're already starting these movements before they're even getting to college, how can celebrities like yourselves and the corporations that are here help feed those interests?
I think what's interesting, what's really interesting from our perspective, just trying to understand what you guys are here for. We know you guys are there, and we know that there are folks over on this side who are, working for major corporations, and you guys are coming from different perspectives and points in your life, etc. And I think to clear up one thing that a point I was trying to make, maybe I didn't make it very well, about authenticity, about projecting the thing that is truly your, I guess in philosophy it's like your ness, like what is really like you, be that you as an individual or you as your thing that you do for a living. It's not going to connect. Like people, like we all know that it's the internet is a noisy place, right? And sometimes you go, the most successful. Sometimes the things we rely on the internet are things that filter the noise, that help us find the stuff that we like the best. So I don't have to go looking for, of all the different clothes in the world. I can go to one blog and say, okay, this is the stuff that this blog has picked out that they think is cool, and then from that I can pick what I think is cool. And it's a simpler decision than going out and hunting it down, right? Okay, I hope I didn't go too far down the rabbit hole. But the point is that if you know those things, then you can rely on those things to help make decisions. If you can be that thing, then to me, there's a future there. There's something very powerful about that. And as a leader, if you have a special project that you're working on, that you can get people's attention, you can get people's interest, you can win people over and get them interested in something you know is right and is good, and you're honest and authentic about it. You don't have trying to just make money off of it, but you really care about what you're doing. With all the noise out there on the internet, the person on the other side of that equation is going to find out very quickly. People are smart these days. They're going to be able to determine very quickly if they're being sold something or if they're being offered something that is intriguing and they are interested in.
But Will was mentioning something earlier when we were talking outside about forecasting technology, and he's been working hard trying to figure out what's the next platform, what's the next thing. We were talking about how it went from records to tapes to CDs, and then quickly through DVDs they were gone, and now it's just digital files. But it's forecasting what is that next technology, and for artists, for these guys making records, like their number one thing is to make a great song. But to also be able to put that out in the right way, So these guys working with the right people to create what is that next thing? What's 5 years in the future? What's 2 years in the future? What's 10 years in the future? Figuring out where that technology is going to go, and how I guess for the good of companies, how they own that IP to those companies, to those technologies as well.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to wait on someone to help. Like with my scholarship program, I didn't wait. America's in a tough situation where families can't even pay their mortgage because they got laid off. So I'll go out and travel, and I make pretty good money DJing. And I didn't feel right with the amount of money I was making DJing, so I started I Am Home. And I bypassed that money and go to Wells Fargo, and they suss through people that are losing their their home because they got laid off, not because they're living beyond their means, but they have no means to live. And maybe these families, they can't pay $20,000 and they've missed 4 payments, right? Should they lose their home because they've been living there for 20 years? So that's what I need to do as a citizen, right? If I went out in 2008 and said, yes, we can, and then I'm waiting around for people to solve it for me, sometimes you have to do it yourself, right? So my point with corporations wasn't, nestling over on the, and jocking corporations. That was to what corporations can do to enable youth. If the youth have philanthropic endeavors, figure out how their passion coincides with the corporation's passion and work together, right? Don't look to marketing companies for your solutions all the time when those agents, the people right, if your passions align with the things that you consume, why not partner up with those things you consume? Corporations aren't the bad guys all the time. Depends on the corporation.
Okay, so let's take a couple of questions. What do you
Hi, my name is Anya Hodges, and I'm a student at Chapman University. Wow. First of all, I think one of the easiest way to empower youth is to give them a voice and to listen. And second of all, as far as regardless of who's benefiting from this summit, whether it's corporations or students, I think what corporations can learn is that in kind of combination, this generation coming up, I think, is more socially aware because the information that we need to know about issues going on in the world is much more readily available. They're more compassionate. They're interested in social business. Look at the success of Tom's Shoes.
do you have a question for these guys?
Yeah, I have a question for each of them,
Okay,
actually.
Well, one question. There's
one
a lot
question.
of people who want to talk.
Okay, it's for Kelly. Hi. So you said you're really passionate about health and also about ocean and environmental issues. So are you vegetarian or vegan?
No, I'm not.
I
But
feel like both of those are really, really compatible with your interests. And if you
That's
maybe
good.
wanted,
Let him answer the question.
great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give the microphone? Let me have to say this.
Well, the simple answer is no, I'm not. But the more I look into it, the more it makes sense to me, given what not only the cruelty to animals that happens, but also for the health of the land and for our bodies. And yeah, it's a little bit of probably a taboo subject to really go into in our typical schools and teach kids that, because certain industries pay for certain things, and there's certain lunches served at schools and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to it, to potentially going vegan myself, or at least vegetarian.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's your question? What's your name?
I'm Judy Hu, and I work for GE, and I just wanted to ask Will, and really all of you, when I heard your video that you did for our president, I thought it was overwhelming, incredibly emotional, incredibly powerful. And this morning we spent a lot of time talking about the Middle East in our Patel conference, and it's on the cusp of so many extraordinary possibilities. And it seems to me that music can be a way to inspire people, to inspire the youth, and particularly to inspire the youth around the world who are trying very hard to change the worlds that they live in. So I kind of wanted to ask you all, have you thought about what you've been doing to inspiring people beyond the borders of America?
Doing things to inspire people to do things. Writing songs. If I'm inspired to write a song, I will. But I don't want to force, social cause music just on the whim because it's a powerful thing to do. I think doing something to inspire the youth to do something is just probably more important, and to turn it as loud as possible. I'm proud of the work I do with my scholarship and the mortgage program. And if I'm inspired again, like I was last time, I'm gonna answer that call and write another song.
Thank you.
I'm a teacher at Monroe Clark Middle School and the advisor for the Cesar Chavez Club. And for the last 7 years, I've been teaching them the core values of Cesar Chavez. And all the core values go around all the causes that all of you are working on. My question is, I teach the lyrics of many of your songs. The kids have to do a lyrics analysis with a social issue. If the song doesn't have a social issue, they can do it. And they've done some of your songs. For me, my question to you and my plea is that I think if you guys can connect with the youth directly and offer all the help that you can, not only with your songs, but we just had a website done by one of my students yesterday for our club. And if we can have that, we couldn't get pictures with the Dalai Lama, but if we can have a direct response from you and some kind of help, because we do need funding. I know some of you said you don't need, we do. Look, I've been doing this for 7 years, and it's so hard to do our project because we don't have money. We don't. Corporations help sometimes, but they have a vested interest, and I think you don't. I think you want to change the world, and we want to change it too. Yeah. I'm trying to encourage the kids, but we need your help, and I want you to connect with us.
So to that point, you're from, I'm from East LA, born and raised, and we have a Watts, we started our Peapod Foundation where we go to inner cities and we support boys and girls clubs with Pro Tools, Final Cut Pro, high definition cameras, editing utensils, and editing tools and tutorials. So we built our first one 2 years ago in Watts. We built 3 more in the Bay Area with funding and tools and tutorials. And in New York, we opened up 4 Peapod Academies, and we're going back to Boyle Heights, where I'm from, to open up another one. So you preach it to the choir with that one. I think more people need to do that. Corporations need to go into inner cities and support people's programs. There's thousands of programs. And with the amount of money corporations spend on marketing and advertisement, when people TiVo past commercials, portions of your dollars could go to help and sponsor programs, and that was effective marketing. That's I think we need to leave marketing and go into communitying. It doesn't exist yet, but it's when brands and corporations keep the community in mind and enable communities and people that lead those programs, as such as yourself, to flourish.
So young man.
Hi, I'm Noah, and my question was about what what you were talking about, how if the youth, if they stop buying like the radios and the televisions and stuff, because the new technology is coming out, like iPads and a lot more things that you can watch it on, like websites like Hulu, where you can watch TV shows on your laptop or on your iPad or something. So are you worried that something like that might happen? That the youth are going to stop buying products and it's going to shut down like a lot of industries?
I was acknowledging how powerful you guys are. It's your desires of telling your mom and dad that I want this or I would like that.
Yeah, it's just going to change.
You know,
instead of a TV, more.
Yeah. And because of Facebook and Twitter, you guys can connect, right? Mm-hmm. You guys could fight for better education in your schools or in Los Angeles, or to tell your mommy and daddy that fight for this, go out and vote so we can get these things. You guys are the most powerful people on the planet.
Thanks.
Was you were kind of saying that the youth need to be inspired by corporations or something, but in a lot of ways, the largest...
No, I didn't say that.
No, you didn't say that.
Well, he said that they were reflected from communities. I said that the largest movements ever were instigated by the youth, organized by the youth, and inspired by youth, and not by corporations. So I was just wondering, like, how you come to that conclusion.
I think you should get up here and talk.
I think they agree with you.
Sounds of that.
I mean, do you have a comment about that?
I was just going to say, I was thinking back to, well, currently we're approached by a lot of corporations because we do have a large community online. We have 27 million people on Facebook. We've developed that through, directly with our fans, but I have to honestly say most of the time we will turn down to work with a lot of corporations. We'll turn down a lot of money to expose certain motives of those corporations to our fans just because we feel that it jeopardizes some of the integrity that we've built over 11 years now, starting with those emails and starting with the street team, which became a fan club, which became a community online, which became the Facebook and all that. So, one thing that I think that we've been able to do is when those corporations that are out there that are trying to find a common way to reach the youth or to try and accomplish something together, a lot of times for us, we've had to create what that is, do the homework and figure out how is this going to be a winning opportunity for us to essentially give something to our fans. Maybe they're producing a product that we're able to give away free to our fans, and how do we deliver that in a way that comes across authentic? And you can't really craft a way to have something come across authentic. It either is or it isn't, and that's where we are always involved, and we ask that question, is it authentic? So I think that, things move quickly. Corporations have a lot of money they want to spend, but if you guys can craft the ideas and come up with these ideas and present it to them in a way where it's all a win-win situation, I think that maybe we could start to see some more support and more dollars and get those out there and help you guys do what you want to do.
So do you look for corporations that share your values, your worldview? Is that how you go about picking what corporations you'll interact with?
That plays a role. It plays a role in it. It's for us. I mean, one of the guys that we work with said he tells other people that we make a business out of saying no to everybody because we get approached with so many things. And I mean, I think we're kind of like, we come from that generation of we get bombarded by online by all of these different interests and media and emails from friends saying check this out and commercials and da. So we start off being skeptical, right? Like you said, to paraphrase that some important movements that you've kept an eye on were started by kids, right? Like one of my favorite is, for example, is Tree People in LA. Started by a young kid who, if you guys don't know the story, he wanted to do something. He wanted to start planting trees, do something for the environment to combat climate change. And it's gorgeous up in the a little further north from here. And we worked with them in the past, and we believe in that it doesn't. It's not about the age. It's not about the marketing. It's about like the idea and the honesty. If it's authentic and it's honest and it's really about the thing that they're saying it's about, which is doing that good, and not about putting on the face of doing good so they can actually just make more money. I guess where I'm coming from with that is that our generation, and especially younger generations, are way more hip to that. They're not going to get fooled by the marketing. They're really going to just know. It's like that, just an instinct that's now just built into younger people that they can't get fooled with it.
What's your question?
I'm Elliot, and my question was, what do you think has allowed you guys to make a difference as opposed to, another kid in your school or, some kid in high school?
For me, my mom was the X factor to why I'm different than my next door neighbor. I was raised in a very bad neighborhood. My best friend when I was 11 was shot in the face. When I was 12, another good friend of mine was shot by the police. But my mom kept me safe. She sent me to good schools. I went to Brentwood Science Magnet, Par Revere Junior High School, and Palisades High School. And in high school, I wanted to do music, but it was my mom. When Dalai Lama said that, compassion and a good mother, I just thought of my mom, and I was so thankful that I have the mom I have. And I wouldn't be the way I am. I am who I am because of her.
I was just gonna add a little something to that too. Just thinking big. You know, I come from a small city in Florida, in Central Florida, and there's not too many people in my city who've sort of spread out around the world. And I live around the world. I travel around the world, and it's really great. It's a lot of fun. But I think as a kid, I had a lot of ideas that were really big, and both my parents had passions that they never really followed. Both my parents loved to play music. Dad played guitar. My mom loved to sing and play banjo. And my dad did a little bit of theatrical acting, and but they never really followed their dreams, either one of them, you know. And I think that was one thing my mom always wanted for me. She always wanted me to follow my dreams and to think big. Don't just think of like, you know, just a little problem you have at school or just a little. I mean, you got to take care of those things too. But it's thinking about you know, someone like the Dalai Lama. He's thinking about the whole world every time he makes a decision, you know. And if more people think that way, more big, great things happen.
Hello. Okay, I'm Rihanna. I'm from San Diego, and it's weird that you're talking about dreams because that had to do with my question. So I think everyone in the room pretty much has dreams, and I was just gonna ask any of you guys if you still have dreams and like if the dreams and hopes you thought about when you were small, are you satisfied with it now, or is there any dreams you still want to achieve that you haven't yet? Any future plans or goals?
Yeah. When I was 13, I went to school, and I had my little demo tape, and I gave it to a friend of mine named Stefan. I said, "Hey, Stefan, give this to your dad." And Stefan, his name was Stefan Gordy, and Barry Gordy was his father. And he never gave it to his dad, you know. And then 2 years ago, I was at a dinner honoring Doug Morris, and I leaned over to Barry Gordy and said, "You know, when I was in the 9th grade, I gave my demo to your son. He never gave it to you, but I just gave your son a record deal signed to my label, LMFAO." And it made me realize that at 34, if I was to meet the 13-year-old version of myself, I would tell him, "Thank you for dreaming," and we made it. And now I have other dreams. And to all the youth, you want to dream the biggest dream you could dream, and then dream how to make that dream a reality. And then after you've dreamt how to make it a reality, you have to dream how to get around all the obstacles that are going to keep that dream from coming to reality. So you have to have 3 dreams.
Hello, my name's Austin, and I had a quick question for any of you. What led you guys to your passion, and do you think that impacted you greatly to make a change in the world?
Mine was by default. My mom liked to sit on the beach and get a suntan. And so
That's amazing.
there was not much. I didn't have much choice. No, I had no choice. I had to surf.
Mine was, I had a choice. You know, when you're poor, I remember, how old are you?
12.
When I was, what grade is that again?
6th grade.
When I was in 6th grade, I had a teacher by the name of Mr. Wright. And Mr. Wright at Brentwood Science Magnet School said, we have to turn in canned foods because we're doing a food drive for the poor people. So I go home and I tell my mom, "Mom, we got to turn in canned foods for the poor people." So my mom says, "Willie, you ain't turning no canned foods." Right? So make a long story short, Brent and Brad and all the people from my elementary school came to my house on Thanksgiving and brought canned foods to my house. And that's when I realized that we were poor. I didn't know that. Had no concept of poor because everyone next door to me were poor. But I went to rich schools. I was part of the magnet program. And when you're in the ghetto, you have a choice of being a gangster, sports, or picked on because you're not a gangster or sports. So I chose music. And I dress the way I dress because people can identify me that he's not a part of the gang. So I always dress loud colors and funky little style because they didn't mess with me. It was a way for me to be safe from drive-bys or drugs. So music was by default, but also out of survival. And then people encouraged me. Wow, you're really good, and that gave you confidence, you know? And I remember telling my mom when I was 13, I'm gonna buy you a house. So then she told me, don't make promises you can't keep, right? So if you're gonna do something, you better do it. You know, you have to do it. There's nothing in your way. No is just pause, right? And you wanna show the people that said no, as long as you're not doing something that's gonna hurt somebody, you wanna look at them and, you know, not to tease them that you achieved it, but that you can do anything you put your mind to.
Did you get her the house?
I bought my mom a house, grandma house, aunt a house, uncle house.
Hello, my name's Kara. I run creative content for Sega Media Group, which means, despite appearances, I'm on the corporate side.
Sega! Sorry, that was a commercial.
And my question is kind of for Mike and Rob. One of the reasons that you guys are here is that you have this amazing online presence that does authentically connect. How much of that successful presence do you think comes from your music, and how much of it is from something else?
Well, I think that there's a really strong synergy between the music that we make and the fans connecting to it, and also the willingness for each guy in the band to connect with the fans, and that's a philosophy that we started with very early on. And you know, I can talk about certain times where I felt like when working with a major label, they wanted to derail some of those efforts into maybe more mainstream types of promotion. And what felt right to us at the time was really finding a way to connect with the fans one-on-one, to shake hands, to talk to our fans when we were playing in tiny little clubs. And just because we left those clubs and moved up to a bigger venue didn't mean that we shouldn't go out there and continue to shake hands and talk to our fans and hear what they actually liked about our music, liked about what we were doing, and ways that we could service that fan base, because we never forgot the fact that we were able to make music and continue to do that based on the fact that we have fans that enjoy our music. And if we're to ever forget that and to lose gratitude for the gift that we've been given to be able to do that, I believe that we wouldn't be able to do that. So I think by really connecting with those fans from very, very early on a one-on-one basis, and then through email, and then through our street team and fan club, they have ownership in our brand. They feel like they actually contributed to our brand and have made us what we are, and that's the truth. They have done that. They've gone out there and spread the word. And when they see the more mainstream type, like when MTV was huge, we had videos on MTV and songs like all over the radio, they took pride and ownership in that, and they talked to their friends about it and expressed their excitement about it. And I think that has extreme power, that there's a story behind it, and then there's a grassroots foundation, which the more mainstream ways of promoting pretty much throws fuel on that fire. And we've never done anything to compromise or go against those principles, and we continue to think about ways that we can have direct contact with our fans.
And real quick on that note, I think that it is about quality, kind of quality within the quantity. We've been talking about, like, okay, you know, if you've got a big community anywhere online, like whatever it may be, within that community, you're going to have people that are there on a more of a surface level that are kind of casual fans, and they're going to have people that are there and they're super dedicated and whatever, and it's the gamut in between. And I told you guys that I was over at the University Center today, and I was completely left alone. Well, then when we were sitting here, a young man named Jason, are you still in here? What's up, Jason? So Jason came up to me and said, hey, I'm a fan of Linkin Park. And I had this on my mind, right? So this thing we're talking about. And so I asked him, I just grilled him a little bit about what, you know, have you been to our shows? He said, actually, yeah, I've seen you guys 3 times. I'm going to see you again when you come next time to LA. It's the K-Rock show. And so he's seen us 3 times in concert. He has 4 or 5 of our albums. 4 albums. I mean, so there's clearly, I get left alone at the thing, but then there's this guy who is like with us, you know, when it comes to like the stuff that we're doing. And it's the stuff that means the most to you. It's the stuff that he wants to hear the music. He wants to see the show. It's not about, for you, it's not about, you know, what's Mike writing on his blog. Thank you. Thank you. But I will say this to kind of tie the 2 points together, though. One thing that I like and that I think will be useful to everybody actually here is that there are so many tools out there on the internet that there should be no excuse for yourself or the people that work for your, I don't know what kind of projects you guys are putting together, the students in the room, but whoever's involved with those projects, I wouldn't expect every single one of them to have to do the same thing. If you got 10 people working on it, you can't say, okay, all 10 of us need to be on Twitter doing this thing, da-da-da. In our band, we've got 6 guys, and their interests are vastly different. And some of the guys, Rob included, Twitter isn't a good fit. It's just, they just wouldn't, even if you made them go on and say, you guys listen, it's good for the band, you got to get online, da-da-da. I mean, it would be useless because their heart's not in it. So find the things, you know, figure out where your heart is in it and go use that thing and be effective in some other way. Because if you believe in the cause, then there's no reason to not be working for it. But there's also no reason to do something a certain way just because everybody else is doing it that way. Like, figure out a way to be effective, but it doesn't have to be. It can be different. It could be, you know, something new.
And to his point, putting your own skin in the game. Because if you're not willing to put your own skin or your own money, someone else isn't going to put their own money in it. For example, there's this inventor by the name of Dean Kamen. Great dude. Created Segway, the Stirling engine, which is a refrigerator in reverse, takes hot water, cold water, compresses it, makes electricity. The water purification system, any liquid you put in it makes clean drinking water. Great guy. And he has this program called US First, where he teaches kids from the age of 9 to 18 robotics, mathematics, science, and technology. I met him. And he said, hey, I want you to help me with US First. I said, what's US First? He said, that's my point. I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm in 16,000 schools across America, and I need to make it louder. I said, I can help you make it louder. We're performing the Super Bowl this year. Why can't I take my group, the Black Eyed Peas, and perform at the Super Bowl of The Mind, his US First robotics competition? So we did that 3 days ago in St. Louis. And I told him I want to turn it into a TV show. I didn't ask him for money. I put my own money in. Called up ABC myself and bought TV time. Got airtime August the 14th. On Sunday at 7 p.m. A back to school special. I don't even have enough title sponsor yet. But if you don't believe in it, you're not willing to do it, then who else? Who are you going to wait for? Who are we waiting for, really? So you have to do it. So now I'm at the risk of losing a whole lot of money. Because I produced it, bought the time with no sponsors. Like, I could lose like $3 million.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
So if anybody in this room is interested in sponsoring that, well, that's the end of our time together.
No, these kids have been waiting.
Oh, well, okay.
It's about the youth. You can tell the youth no.
So you can ask a question. There we go.
I was sitting up there and I heard what you were saying about growing up, and it sounded like pretty hard compared to like my life growing up. And I wanted to say, if there was any moments when you felt like you just completely, like, there was a moment when you felt like there was no hope left in getting done whatever you wanted to.
Yeah.
And that assuming if there was, what did you do that helped you get out of it?
So I had this girlfriend by the name of, I swear to God, her name is Mada. I was 17 years old, she was Persian, and I used to drive my yellow Fiero all the way down to Irvine, right? And I used to hang out with Pat. And I used to look to Pat. I haven't seen Pat since I was 22, right? It's my first time, and he knows him. He invited him, and he probably didn't even know that I knew Pat. So I used to come to Pat, and I used to come down to Irvine, and I had friends, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. And I got encouraged, and I used to look up to Pat, because Pat was 19 and had his own retail store. So I would look up to Pat like, wow, dude, this is your store? He's like, yeah, bro, you know, come down to Costa Mesa, dude. I'll put on a show for your band in the parking lot. So I was like, I went back up to LA like, yo, man, we got a show today. Are we getting paid? No, but my friend said we can perform at a store. And it was, thank you, Pat, like for real, like people like Pat, when you're, low to the flow and there's no place to go, some bros like, yo, and you're like, whoa. Thank you.
So,
Thanks.
do you want to ask a question, young lady? Okay.
I was just wondering, who is your daily inspiration? Who do you get up for? Or like when you just started out in music or surfing, who inspired you to do something, to do your music or surfing? Who was it?
Mine's my family. It's real simple. Like especially once you have if you've got kids, it's just there's no question. I mean, parents in the room know that. And the kids in the room should know that's someday you'll know. You'll know, because it's the second it happens, your whole mentality changes and everything is for them. So, yeah, that's it.
For me, it was just of course, like people like Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, and other groups that I loved. And then Mada's mom, she had this nice big house in Irvine, and I would ask her, like, this is your house, how did you do it? Yes, we were born in Iran, and we came here, like, wow, we live in the projects, how did you get this house? And just asking people questions, and then seeing CEOs, like, so what is it like running this company? And then asking questions, and then now you're inspired by people that aren't in music, but are in business. And then I just flew I haven't slept. I was in Korea today. I had 2 days in one day. I was in Korea and flew here, and it was still the 4th.
Yep, me too. I was in Australia.
You know what I'm saying? Flying in the air, found it.
I'm asleep. I'm falling asleep.
But,
I'm so
asking
tired.
questions, I remember I was just there, and there's this lady by the name of Mickey Lee. She's my new inspiration. You always got to find new inspirations, right? There's always going to be somebody that's doing it better than you're doing it. And if it's not in music, it's in business. If it's not in business, it's in philanthropy. If it's not, you have to look to always be open-minded on who's going to inspire you, who's going to be your muse, right, to make music, or who's going to be your muse to, hang up inspiration in the walls of your mind like a museum. Who's going to be your muse to do amusing things, right? So I just like the word muse.
I was just going to add to that. Well, my inspiration was I grew up also without much money, basically pretty poor. My grandfather had money; he spent it all. Didn't leave me any. But my parents were really struggling and just trying to sort of scrape money together. And I didn't really realize it till later. But surfing was kind of like an escape for me. It was something I could do by myself, the way I wanted to do it, and I just imagined. I'd watch waves and imagine how you could ride the wave, the line you could draw on the wave, or whatever. And then I had heroes, and obviously people influenced me. My dad drove me to all my surf contests. My mom, she always kept me in my place. Always kept me grounded, and she always told me if I ever got a big head, she would she would beat my ass. She would smack me and do whatever. She would threaten me a little bit, but it was all for the right reasons, and sort of just, you know, kept me on a straight and narrow path, really. And but you know, we all have our heroes and people we look up to. In surfing, I had a lot of those people, and I was inspired to go travel around the world. I wanted to be able to make money and travel around the world and surf all these great tropical places. And but I think at the end of it all, after going all these places for so many years and doing so many things, that, you know, the real inspiration comes from just the pleasure of doing things. Just from you know, it doesn't have to be the best or biggest or most exciting wave or journey or whatever. It's still, it really comes down to sharing with people, you know, having time with your friends and your family and the people you love.
Hi, my name's Holly. So the other day we were taught that like every no is a step closer to yes, and you were telling us to dream big, and so I was wondering that, because we're trying to hold a benefit concert to like help give kids in Africa an education, and I was wondering if you would be interested in helping us or talking to us afterwards and trying to do that.
Yeah, I think we'd be happy to talk to you afterwards and definitely and try and help you out any way we can, and to talk a little bit about, you know, people saying no. I think that we definitely have a lot of experience in that from the very beginning. We were trying to do our thing, and we were rejected by every major label out there 2 times.
And the independent ones.
Yeah, and all the independent ones. So we were basically told that we weren't going to get signed and we weren't going to make a record, and that's where we really relied on our fans and just the direct communication with them. But you know, just continuing to look for the inspiration and believing in what you do. And I know for us, we're extremely passionate about making music, and it's what we love to do. And it's, as these guys were talking about, it was our escape from certain things, or just being able to go somewhere and really enjoy what we're doing. So with that passion comes I think the world kind of, when you're passionate about something, I think the world opens up and possibilities start to present themselves, and there's a natural flow that if you believe in it and you start taking action, that, you know, you could be, someone can tell you no one day and you can feel so discouraged, and if you were to give up, you might not realize that just 1 second further, just one more day, one more try, that yes is there and that thing's going to open up. So that's, you know, if you talk to anyone that's
So
succeeded.
ask him again, just right.
When's the concert?
I don't know. We're still in the planning process. We're just thinking sometime like next September, October. Like if you guys were able to come and be one of
You'll have it when the bands can show up.
Yeah.
That's very convenient.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's hard to say.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
Very convincing.
It's in Irvine, right here, right?
It'd probably be in San Diego because we're from High Tech High International, which is in Point Loma, so it'd probably be somewhere in San Diego.
So should we
Well,
just vote?
if it's for that cause,
We have 2 out of 6 though.
I don't know. I can't promise the P's, but if I'm in town, I'll drive down there and DJ.
We'd be happy. Mike and I would be happy to talk to you afterwards. Unfortunately, we have 6 guys in our band, and we can't commit.
So we can say yes all day.
We can
We'll
be
say
there
yes all
if
day.
we
No,
have it.
I can't convince those guys. But that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna.
He could do his
Yeah,
own. Yeah, he could do his own. If you want to hear a vocal, like just me and Rob playing drums, then absolutely.
Yeah. Or if you want to hear me sing and Mike play drums, which won't be as good, we're happy.
But if you want to hear the
too.
ultimate collaboration, Will.i.am DJing and the guys from Lincoln Park rapping. Singing.
Yeah, that's cool. And it sounds like a great cause, and I'd be happy. Personally, I'd be happy to attend if you guys are doing it. If I'm in town, I'd be happy to be there and support you in any way I can.
Thank you so much.
Great. Okay. So, did you have a question? No, was that your question? Okay, well, we should thank our panelists for being here.